Public hearing will come to order for May 23rd, 2022. The first item on public hearing is TP Ordinance 2215, an ordinance amending and enacting Chapter 6 Alcoholic Beverages, Article 2 and Article 3. Is there anyone to speak on that? The next item is TP Ordinance 2216, an ordinance amending and enacting Chapter 8 Amusements, Article 3, Public Amusement. The third one is TP Ordinance 2217, an ordinance amending and enacting Chapter 36 Planning and Development, Article 5, Standards for Development of Property, Section 36-113, General Standards for Major Subdivisions and Special Use Commercial Developments. And the last one is TP Ordinance 2218, an ordinance to grant a variance to Section 36-90E, minor commercial petitions. Each lot must be a minimum of 1 acre for Two Sisters Unity LLC, and that's in Laranja in District 2. Okay, if there's no one to speak on those items, we will call our meeting to order. If you have a cell phone, please mute it or turn it off at this time. Mr. Joseph will do our invocation and also lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings we have received. We thank you for our health. We thank you for our strength. We thank you for our peace of mind. We thank you for our families and our friends. We ask that you bless this meeting tonight, give the leadership, the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding to make those decisions that are pleasing in your sight. We ask that you bless our first responders, our military, police officers, healthcare workers, those who run toward dangers and not away from it, so that we may enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy today. And Lord, as we leave this place, but never your grace, we ask for safe travels back to our various homes, to our various families, and to our various abodes. We'll be sure to give you all the honor, all the glory, and all the praise. And all the saints within the sound of my voice responded by saying, Amen. If you will, please face the flag, and we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance in unison. I'm asking all veterans and active military, if we have any, to please render the hand salute. Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, thank you.
Ms. Tizou, if you would call roll, please.
Mr. Forrest.
Present.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Here.
Mr. Joseph.
Present.
Mr. Bruno.
Here.
Mr. Richtel.
Here.
Mr. Mayu.
Here.
Mr. Wells.
Here.
Mr. Vial.
Here.
Ms. Hyde.
Here.
Ms. Coates.
All right, hopefully everyone's had a chance to look over the minutes from our May 9th meeting that were emailed to you. If there are no questions or corrections, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I move that we adopt the minutes.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Wells, second by Mr. Joseph. Roll call, please.
Ms. Coates. Yes. Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Mayu. Yes. Mr. Richtel.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno. Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Public input, is there anyone wishing to address an agenda item that was not on public hearing? If not, we'll move into our parish president's report. We'll have Mr. Thomas come and present that to us. Good afternoon.
All right. Just really excited to be here. Mr. Bruno, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Item number 1 is the financial report. Those should be emailed to you if you have any questions on those.
No questions?
Good. Second is we're seeking approval of the change order number 1 for Pate Road Bridge over Seltzer's Creek. With some approaches, we had to haul in some more fill in the amount of $12,995.
Also move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Vial, second by Ms. Coates to approve. Roll call, please.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates. Yes. Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Richtel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayu.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Item number 3, approval of substantial completion for Pate Lane Bridge over Seltzers Creek.
So move.
Second?
I have a motion by Mr. Vial, second by Mr. Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vial,
Yes.
Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew. Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates.
Item number 4, approval to seek bids for Pate Lane roadway for Old Covington Highway that will proceed south to Chapapila Sports Park. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, much needed for all the traffic congestion we have in the area of the Hammond Rec Park.
Correct.
I mean, we're doing some good things over at the Pard Rec Park also with the traffic circle and Celsus Bridge and, Sisters Road Bridge and expanding the roadway. So I also move.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Mr. Vial, second by Mr. Wells. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno. Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew.
Item number 5, approval of change order number 4 for the courthouse facade repairs. There were some windows that needed to be repaired on the 3rd floor, so we're asking to approve that in the amount of $6,255, and also they're going to do some cleaning on the roof
So
as
moved.
well.
We have a motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Mayhew. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayhew. Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates. Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Item number 6, approval of substantial completion for the courthouse facade repairs.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Wells. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew. Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates. Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Item number 7, approval of bids for the new courthouse elevator. We had 2 bids. Kelly Construction came in as the lowest bidder in the amount of $593,000.
So moved.
This elevator will go in the shaft that has never been occupied next to the original elevator that's as old as the building. So if we lose that original elevator, which we're pretty confident we will, we can no longer get parts for it. So we're going to go ahead and get the new elevator drop, which will go to the 3rd floor as a backup.
Well, we
So
need
we
it, Joe.
can, right, do what
Got a
we
lot of
need to do.
elderly people over there trying to get up those stairs.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Ingraffia. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew. Yes. Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Item number 8, approval to seek bids for East Minnesota Park pedestrian improvements.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I want to say,
Is,
I think that's, I want to say that's RPC with some of
That's
the
what I thought.
safety.
It's
I think that's
RPC
some of
money?
the safety money. Yes, sir,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I think it is.
RPC?
Minnesota Park, FTA grant,
Okay.
pedestrian walkway.
Also move.
I have a motion by Mr. Vial, second by Mr. Mayhew. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew. Yes. Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates. Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Item number 9, approval to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Drainage District Number 4 for debris removal and approved laterals. Basically, we will be applying as a joint with NRCS, correct, Missy? Yeah.
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Forrest. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew. Yes. Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates.
Yes.
And item number 10, approval to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Drainage District 5 for debris removal on approved laterals.
So moved. I'll make the motion.
And I'll second trans motion.
Motion by Mr. Forrest, second by Mr. Joseph. Roll call, please.
Ms. Coates? Yes. Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Graffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
And barring that, any questions, we are set.
Great job, Mr. Thomas.
Good job.
President Thomas.
Mr. Thomas, you spent a lot of money tonight.
All right, next we'll have a discussion on the 911 building. Mr. Frank?
Good evening. I'm Frank Edwards, here on behalf of the 911 Board. As a reminder that there are 7 members of the 911 Board. I represent the police. The Sheriff's Office has a rep. Fire District 1 and 2 has a rep. The hospitals have a rep, and Acadian. And then the council has a rep, which is John Ballard. And John is ill tonight. And that's why I'm here. Just as a reminder, the police jury purchased 15.5 acres in 1982 for $180,000 where the jail is now. And the Tangipahoa Parish Communications District, which I'll probably refer to in the future as 911, was formed by referendum in 1990, and it's supported by surcharges on telephones and now cell phones. In 2001, an Attorney General's opinion, 01-46, opined that the Tangipahoa Parish Communication District was not eligible to own property, to own real property. Now, the district was formed, we had revenue, we couldn't own property, and wound up building the facility that's there now. It sits on approximately 2 acres of the 15.5 acres that the council bought. It's a 6,000 square foot facility. It cost $1.2 million when it was built. Since then, the Attorney General has recalled that opinion that said that the communication district could not own property, and now opines that the district can own property. Our board is in the process, we're entertaining the idea or the need to expand our building. Right now it's 6,000 square feet. We're looking at increasing that to by 6,000 square feet. We're actually doubling the size of it. And we would anticipate, we don't have bids yet, but we would anticipate spending in the area of $3 million to do that. But the board is concerned about investing $3 million into a facility that we don't own. The board built it on y'all's property. We've been operating it, but now we need to expand, and we're to be honest, we're reluctant to do that.
Frank, can I stop you a minute?
Yep.
I want to make a correction. The board does not own that building. The taxpayers of the parish own that building. So before we go any further, that surcharge on the phone bill is what paid for that building. Just like if the tax paid on this building. So I want to make that very clear. The board does not own that building. The taxpayers of the parish own that building. So I think the board is under misconstrued that they own it. They don't. You are in charge of it, you operate it, but it belongs to the people of the parish.
I think we realize we don't own it because we can't own property.
But
The district is allowed.
Even if we gave it to you, you don't own it.
Okay, I'm not. Just like the people own this building, right?
Correct.
But somebody administers it, right?
Correct.
And somebody decides who pays the lights, and somebody decides when to expand, and somebody does that kind of stuff.
Correct.
Okay? So again, our reluctance is to spend more millions of dollars on a facility that is not, if you don't like the word ownership, I'm not sure. So can somebody help me with a better term?
Well, Frank, your board must feel that if you spend X number of dollars, somewhere down the line, the parish would try to take that building from you? Is that y'all concern?
No, but as a board,
Then why don't y'all just expand it then?
as a board, we have a responsibility to do what's best for the communication district. And we're, a lot of discussion, but we're reluctant to say, okay, well, the best thing we can do is spend $3 million on a building that's belongs to somebody else,
To the people
to the people.
who pay the taxes?
Well, yes, but
Mr. Frank, we've operated like this for 40 years, and now all of a sudden this is an issue?
well, no, what happened was, remember, there was a change in the Attorney General's opinion.
I know, but we have
which-
operated this way
Which
for-
now would allow it.
I understand that. We've operated like this for 40 years, is what I heard, 1982, I think?
Yes, it has.
So I think things are okay, you know what I'm saying?
Well, it's okay, but again, if we were just going to continue operating as we are, I think that we wouldn't even be here now. But we're looking at doubling the size of the building.
But I'm like David, I don't see where the problem is, Frank. The property is the parish's property. Y'all have a building on it, you got room to do a 6,000-foot expansion. I've been here 36 years, the parish has never taken a piece of property from another entity. Don't have any plans to do that. To me, there seems like there's some other reason that this is what, because once we give it to y'all, then that board can decide what happens with that after that fact. Y'all can decide on what happens with the building, who runs the building, who's in the building. There's a lot of different things that happen if y'all own it. So it gets away from the elected officials being in charge of it. It becomes just a board that decides what $6 or $12 million, how it's going to be done. And that's where I have a problem with it. The only other alternative is y'all go somewhere else and spend, instead of $6 million, you're going to spend $12 million to buy some land, and then you're still not going to own it. Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm not giving it because you got every other entity out there that's on parish land. If we do this for y'all, we're going to have to do it for every fire department, the animal shelter, everybody else.
Mosquito abatement.
Abatement district, yeah.
And just because there's an attorney general's opinion doesn't mean we got to give it to you. That's like his opinion. Our opinion as a board is we rather be under the parish council's arm and the parish president, and it's like every other entity. We're not going to tell you how to spend your money. You can do what improvement you want to. It's y'all's to do whatever you want to with it. But I'm personally not going to vote to give it to a 7-member board who can vote tomorrow to give it to somebody else. And that can happen once it's out of the council's hands.
Well, I don't know how to answer that, besides going back to what the Attorney General says, we are allowed to do it. So I would assume if you're allowed to do it, that it's done elsewhere.
No.
It allows for the parish council to do it. It doesn't.
No,
Yes.
for legal subdivisions to do it, and the board meets that requirement.
But the council still has to vote to give it to you.
The opinion says that in order for 911 to own that property, you have to have permission from this board, from this council. That's the way I read it when I read it.
Well, I'm not an attorney, I can't argue
Well, no,
with that.
I'm just saying that
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
not
it
the
really
way I
said.
read it. And I was going to close by simply asking
Yeah.
that the board donate the property to 911.
Chris, what's your opinion?
Yeah, well, I was familiar with the earlier opinion that we all knew about. I'm unaware that there was a new opinion, Chief.
What year is that?
Yeah.
The new one?
I look at the statute, and the statute hasn't changed, and the statute doesn't mention that
It
this.
said it was misinterpreted because it wasn't this type of division versus,
What year is that?
This is a 2012 But I'll be happy to study this and see, but once again, opinion says you have to give this district
it doesn't.
your property, that's correct.
It doesn't, and I realize that the option would be you would put the money there or don't, but we really don't like being in that position either. And I think if you turn it around, you wouldn't like being in that position either.
I just don't, but I don't understand it, Frank. That's parish property. Why would you not spend parish money on parish property? If you're gonna take the money that you've been getting from the service charge on the phone bills, which is a tax, any way you look at it, that's what funds 911. And you're gonna add on to the building using those funds. Why wouldn't you just do it on the building that's already there, on the property that y'all have had for 40 years without any discussion about taking it away? That's what I said. I don't think it's a matter of this, y'all think we're gonna take it away. I think there's some underlying other reason.
Well, there's not. Nothing that I've known of, nothing I've heard of, and I'll be honest, I don't think that's a fair statement to make that assumption.
Well, I mean, every other entity does it the same way. Every other entity in the parish. They're sitting on parish property, they build their buildings, the parish does what it has to do, and the board, we appoint y'all. I don't think we've ever come to y'all and told y'all how to manage 911. Y'all do that as a board, and y'all do a good job at
And
it.
that's what we're trying to do. But anyway, I think I've said what I was here to say, and I would just ask y'all to consider it, Mr. Moody, if you would look into
I'll be happy to look at
to
it.
see what changed, and let the councilman decide if that matters. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
All right.
Frank, can I ask one question? How much funds are in the 911 account as of right now?
I want to say 3+ million.
Okay.
The money is there to pay for the expansion and the renovation that we want to do.
Okay.
Item 12, adoption of TP Ordinance 2215, an ordinance amending and enacting Chapter 6 alcoholic beverages, Article 2, high alcoholic content license, and Article 3, low alcoholic content license.
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Vial, second by Ms. Coates. Roll call, please.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Ms. Coates, Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Graffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Richtel,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew, Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Vial,
Yes.
13 is adoption of TP Ordinance 2216, an ordinance amending and enacting Chapter 8 amusements, Article 3, public amusement.
So move.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Vial, second by Ms. Coates. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vial,
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Ms. Coates,
Yes.
Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Graffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Richtel,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew, Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Adoption of TP Ordinance 2217, an ordinance amending and enacting Chapter 36, Planning and Development, Article 5, Standards for Development of Property, Section 36, 113, General Standards for Major Subdivisions and Special Use Commercial Developments.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Vial, second by Mr. Ridgell. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Vial,
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Ms. Coates, Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Graffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Richtel,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew,
The last one is adoption of TP Ordinance 2218, an ordinance to grant a variance to Section 36-90E, minor commercial petitions, Part 2. Each lot must be a minimum of 1 acre for Two Sisters Unity LLC, 19346 Highway 40, Laranja, in District 2.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Ingraffia, second by Mr. Bruno. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayhew, Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Vial,
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Ms. Coates, Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Graffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Richtel,
Yes.
All right. Introduction of ordinances. Item 16 is introduction of TP Ordinance 2219, an ordinance to amend and enact TP Ordinance 1904, Amwaste of Louisiana contract for the petitioned rate and price increase.
So move.
Have a motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Ridgel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew. Mr. Wells. Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Introduction of TP Ordinance 2220, an ordinance placing 15-mile-an-hour speed limit signs on Anna Drive of the Shadows subdivision in District 10.
I so move.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Coates, second by Mr. Wells. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew. Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Okay. Introduction of TP Ordinance 2221, an ordinance reducing the speed limit to 20 miles an hour on South Bennett Road and placing slow children at play and caution one-lane road signs at the intersection of West Bennett Road to the dead end. This is in District 4.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew. Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
The last one is introduction of TP Ordinance 2222, an ordinance declaring surplus TPG asset number miscellaneous 0241-16092, East Paradise Park Lane in Independence, assessment number 3774904, and to authorize the parish president or his authorized designee to sign any and all documents in regard to the sale and transfer of the property to Camp Serenity LLC.
Joe, what is that?
It was one of those properties that was bought out with restore funds, and it's deed restricted, cannot be built on anymore. This Serenity is the next door neighbor.
Joe, I'm sorry, can you go to the podium? We won't be
So
able to
this
hear
is
you.
on Paradise Park Lane,
Yes.
and it's one of the buildings, one of the structures that was back there?
Yes, sir.
That- Did it get totaled in the, so
Yes.
now it's just gonna become nature again, is that correct?
That is correct. It's already torn down, Mr. Bruno. It's a vacant lot that's growing up, and this is the adjoining landowner that wants to purchase it, but that
Okay.
property is deed restricted.
But he
from
can
any
never put
construction.
anything on it, is
That's
that correct?
correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
So move.
Have a motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Ingraffia. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew. Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
All right, item 21, pro se verbal of the canvass of votes cast at the election held in Garbage District Number 1 of the Parish of Tangipahoa, Louisiana, on Saturday, April 30th, 2022, shown there was a total of 2,969 votes cast in favor of the proposition and a total of 1,617 votes cast against the proposition. Therefore, the proposition hereby is passed by a majority of votes cast as promulgated by the Secretary of State. We don't need a motion on that. The next one is adoption of TP Resolution Number 2210, a resolution providing for the canvassing the returns and declaring the result of the special election held in Garbage District 1 of the Parish of Tangipahoa, Louisiana, known as the District, on Saturday, April 30th, 2022, to authorize the renewal of the levy and collection of a 10 mills ad valorem tax on all property subject to taxation within the boundaries of the district for a period of 10 years, beginning with the year 2023 and ending with the year 2032, for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, improving, maintaining, or operating the garbage collection and disposal systems and services of the district as works of public improvement and providing for other manners in connection therewith. I do need a motion and a second.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Wells. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Item 22 is adoption of TP Resolution R2211, a resolution directing the renewal of the levy and collection of an ad valorem tax of 10 mills on the dollar of assessed valuation of all properties subject to taxation within the geographic boundaries of Garbage District Number 1 of the Parish of Tangipahoa, Louisiana, for a period of 10 years, beginning with the year 2023 and ending with the year 2032, authorized under the provisions of Article 6, Section 32 of the Constitution of the State of Louisiana of 1974, as amended, and other constitutional and statutory authority as applicable for the purposes of acquiring, constructing, improving, maintaining, or operating the garbage collection and disposal systems and services of the district as works of public improvement.
So moved to all of that.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Vial. Roll call, please.
Ms. Coates? Yes. Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes. And the last one is adoption of TP Resolution R2212, a resolution of the Tangipahoa Parish Government for approval of an authorized representative for the USDA Water and Environmental Program.
And Missy, yeah, is this what Chuck came and was talking to you guys about? No, this is different.
This is different. This is just, it's a resolution authorizing me to submit a grant application electronically, and we're applying for funds for the landfill, for a new citizen drop-off area, and also for an evaporator for the landfill.
Okay.
I so move, Madam Chair.
Second.
All right, have a motion by Mr. Wells, second by Mr. Forrest. Roll call, please.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Okay. We need to add a resolution to the agenda, so I need a motion to add this. It's a resolution authorizing the parish attorney to move forward with legal action concerning a fence that's been erected in the parish right-of-way.
So I move that we amend the agenda.
I'll second.
Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Wells, second by Mr. Vial to amend the agenda and add this item.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates? Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Okay. Adoption of TP Resolution R2213, a resolution of the Tangipahoa Parish Government authorizing the parish attorney to move forward with legal action concerning a fence erected within the parish right-of-way along David Harris Lane in Hammond, Louisiana.
Yeah, this is in my district. It's been going on I'm a little late to getting it to the agenda, so I apologize for that. But it's been going on 6 or 8 months. We've tried working with the homeowner. Mr. Dan has been out there a number of times, trying to work with them to get them to take the fence down. It goes all the way it crosses a ditch and goes to the edge of the road. So it's really a safety hazard. Tried to get them to cooperate. They will not cooperate. So in order to move this forward legally, I need this resolution. So also move.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Vial, second by Mr. Wells. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Is it a nice fence, Dave? Oh, wait. Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
All right. We have one board appointment. It's a reappointment to the Sewer District Board. Mr. Mayu?
Yeah, that's my appointment. I'm reappointing Mr. Justin Foster.
I'll second that.
All right, Mr. Ridgel had already seconded, so we have a motion, he's quiet. We have a motion by Mr. Mayu, second by Mr. Ridgel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Do we have any legal matters tonight? Okay. We have a fire board meeting after, so don't
got
run away.
council meeting.
Councilman's privileges.
Joe, the rec board in Independence is wanting to do some asphalt work on their walking track. They're gonna pay for it, but they're having trouble getting anybody to give them some bids. Can we get maybe Wesley to get with them and see if he has some names? Or maybe if we can, maybe get them in on some kind of these little contracts and maybe let them, but they're gonna pay for it. But it's just about an 8-foot-long walking track around the park.
Yeah, I would ask them to contact Donna, and Wesley can do the numbers, and Donna will have some.
Okay, so you want me to let them call Donna? Okay, I'll get him to call you in the morning. Thank you. Okay, the other thing, the stumps. No, I said I had a couple. The stumps. What about Addison Road?
Addison Road, they should be moving on. The ones I passed your message that they're actually above, not in the ground, so they don't need to be dotted and all the FEMA standards. So they should be picking those up, the ones that have no roots in it actually penetrating the dirt.
Okay,
And just so you know, we talked about it in the budget meeting with stumps. FEMA's guidelines now is they're making the debris hauler dotty every stump that's in the ground prior to pulling it up, and also contacting, basically making sure there's no cemeteries or artifacts and things like that. So we're government, but it's government bureaucracy, what we're having to go through. But the ones on top of the ground, DRC gave us their word, they're gonna start scooping those up. So we should see some movement on those.
do we
which is
need to
nice.
turn in our roads if we got roads that hadn't been done yet? Because I still got some, they've never
Yes,
got
sir,
them.
I would do that just to to
Okay.
be safe that's
You're
happening.
picking up the ones that have been uprooted and popped.
Yes, and just so you know, we're over, Tangipahoa Parish, over 3 million cubic yards of debris has been picked up. So just to give you
Joe,
an
they're
idea.
picking up stumps on state highways as well?
Let's talk about that offline, Mr. Joseph. Let me see what we can do.
Right, I got it.
All right, Joe, thank you.
I have one, Bridget.
Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
I hate to end with the sad note, but I just received word that our OEP director, Dawson Prime's mother, just passed away. So I'm asking you all to keep Dawson and his family in your thoughts and your prayers. Her husband was my first principal when I started teaching in 1972. A wonderful family. So let's keep them in our thoughts. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Ms. Coates?
Yes, so I have two things. So first off, we had the man shack cleanup Saturday. It went over very well. We had Entergy with a big crew out there. Mr. Trolls and Public Works was out there. The Boat Association, the fire department,
Osprey?
Huh?
Osprey?
yeah, and Osprey Initiative. So we had a lot of good representation. We pulled out a lot of debris, tires and stuff. So it went over very well. So I thank all of them that participated. And then second, on the agenda, there was a lot of, we passed some information for the drainage districts up on the north end. So I know I'm still getting calls on the drainage district on the south end. Now on the west side, if you want to go towards Springfield and look on the right side, there's a pile of logs and debris as big as this room that they're taking out of the river. So they are working. They've started on the south end and they're working their way up west to east and I think east to west. So they are working the drainage district, which none of us sit on. We had, were awarded $17 million. And then we put it out to bid, the contract was won, and they began the work. So that is being worked on. They're moving as fast as they can and getting it out. But I think 117 miles was 5,000 trees. And we still got 200 miles to go, but we've been working as fast and as hard as we can to get that. So just wanted to let everyone know.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, Mr. Wells, I will entertain your motion.
I just want to remind everybody, don't forget to complete Ravi's questionnaire on the acting president. That's in your folder.
We have an evaluation form.
Yeah, so I moved that with adjourn the meeting, Madam Chair.